A dream beyond the fields. Ravi was born in a small village nestled between vast green fields and a river that provided life to hundreds of farmers. His father, Mahesh, was one of them, waking up before dawn to plow the land, sow seeds, and pray for good rain. His mother, Sita, stitched clothes for the villagers, earning a few extra rupees to keep their household afloat. Despite their hard work, the family barely made enough to survive. Ravi and his younger sister, Meena, grew up understanding the value of every grain of rice on their plate. As a child, Ravi would often hear his parents whispering about debts, about how the moneylender was growing impatient, and about how they might lose their land if the next harvest failed. But Ravi had dreams bigger than the endless fields surrounding his village. He often listened to the stories of city life from returning laborers, stories of towering buildings, bright lights, and opportunities. Unlike his father, who believed that a farmer's destiny was tied to the soil, Ravi wanted to break free. One evening, after a long day helping his father in the fields, Ravi sat on the riverbank, gazing at the sky. "I will go to the city one day, Baba," he declared. Mahesh sighed, his hands rough and calloused from years of toil. "The city is not kind to the poor, Beta. Hard work is all we have, but even that may not be enough there." Ravi, however, was determined. The city of struggles. At the age of 18, with nothing but a small bag of clothes and 500 Indian rupees borrowed from his uncle, Ravi boarded a train to Mumbai. His mother packed some homemade rotis and pickles, tears filling her eyes as she watched her son leave. The city was overwhelming. Towering buildings cast long shadows over the crowded streets, and honking cars drowned out the voices of street vendors. Ravi wandered the streets for hours, searching for work. By nightfall, he found himself at a bus stand, hungry and exhausted. For the next few days, he survived on the food he had brought, sleeping on the pavement outside a railway station. Rejections came from everywhere: shops, restaurants, construction sites. Nobody wanted to hire a village boy with no experience. Just when despair started creeping in, he found work at a small roadside tea stall. The owner, Ramesh, was a kind but strict man who agreed to pay him 100 Indian rupees a day for cleaning tables and serving tea. The work was exhausting. Ravi woke up at 4 a.m., washed cups, swept floors, and ran between customers, carrying steaming glasses of chai. By night, his legs ached, and his hands were raw from scrubbing dishes. But he never complained. After his shift, he sat by the roadside, reading old newspapers left behind by customers. The world of business fascinated him, the rise of companies, the risks people took, the fortunes made and lost. One day, a man at the tea stall was grumbling about how expensive fresh vegetables had become. "These vendors rob us," he said angrily. "Back in my village, the same tomatoes cost half the price." That night, as Ravi lay on his thin mat, an idea took root in his mind. Chapter 3, The First Step. Determined to do something on his own, Ravi borrowed 5,000 Indian rupees from Ramesh, promising to return it in 6 months. He took a train back to his village and met with local farmers. "Baba, what if I buy vegetables directly from you and sell them in the city? You get a fair price, and I make a little profit," he proposed. His father was skeptical, but the idea intrigued other farmers who struggled with middlemen taking large cuts. Ravi convinced them to let him transport their produce. The next morning, he loaded sacks of fresh vegetables onto a rented truck and returned to Mumbai. With no stall or shop, Ravi set up his produce on a footpath near a busy market. At first, customers hesitated. Why buy from a roadside seller when they could go to established vendors? But Ravi's rates were lower, and his produce fresher. Slowly, people started buying. Each day, he woke up before dawn, transported vegetables from the railway station, and stood in the sun, selling them with a smile. When competition grew, he adapted, offering home deliveries, discounts to regular customers, and better quality produce. Within a year, Ravi repaid his loan. But he wasn't satisfied. Growing pains. Ravi realized that selling on the street wasn't sustainable. He needed a proper shop. But Mumbai's rents were sky-high. With his savings, he rented a tiny space in a crowded neighborhood. It was barely big enough to fit him and his stock, but it was a start. He named it Fresh Harvest. Running a store came with new challenges: inventory management, theft, competition. There were days when sales were low, and he worried if he had made the right decision. But quitting was never an option. He worked tirelessly, forming partnerships with farmers and cutting out middlemen entirely. As profits grew, he hired his first employee, an old friend from the village, Manoj, who had also come to the city in search of work. Together, they expanded, opening a second store. Then a third. Chapter 5, Success and Sacrifices. Years passed. Ravi's grocery business flourished. His stores became known for fair prices and quality produce. He expanded to online orders and home deliveries, bringing convenience to hundreds of customers. But success came with sacrifices. He barely had time for himself. His parents aged, and though he sent them money, he missed their presence. His sister, Meena, got married, and he couldn't attend the ceremony due to an urgent business deal. One evening, after a long day at work, Ravi visited his childhood home. His father, now old and frail, greeted him with tears in his eyes. "You have done well, beta. But remember, wealth is meaningless if you forget the people who love you." Those words stayed with him. From then on, Ravi made time for his family. He built a new house for his parents and started an initiative to help farmers in his village get better prices for their produce. Chapter 6, The True Meaning of Success. At 30, Ravi was no longer the poor boy who had arrived in Mumbai with 500 Indian rupees. He owned a successful grocery chain, provided jobs to many, and helped his village thrive. One day, a young boy came to his store, looking lost and hungry. He reminded Ravi of himself. Ravi smiled and handed him a bag of food,